of the Future is Now DAO, which is a go-to-market powerhouse in Web3 that's been operating since 2018. And what we mainly took a focus to, which is really how I got into this whole space, is the art of storytelling, narrative creation, and visual marketing. Because when I started back in 2017, having worked for both Vice News and RT International and working on both sides of the political narrative spectrum, I realized that, someone is creating, does this work? Let's see. Oh, there we go. Someone is creating the narrative for you, right? And as you learn the tricks of the trade of manufacturing consent and creating public opinion, you realize at the precipice of 2017, which is when I got into this whole thing, and Bitcoin was about $2,200, which is how much I bought it for in October 2017, I realized that Bitcoin had the worst narrative because people were afraid of it. People were very obsessed with the fact that this is a bad technology. And so what I basically did is I created a story for the innovators of the future at that time in late 2017, early 2018, and I put that story on international media, alternative media albeit. And the whole idea was really to create that brand positioning and that storytelling that was needed to create trust with an industry that was trying to prove that it's trustless. And that wasn't easy because obviously the whole concept really of emotions and feelings in cinema and manufacturing public opinion, if you will, it's an art that doesn't come easy. And with traditional media at the time pushing so hard against this narrative, it wasn't an easy task to co-create that. But it took us on a journey working with some of the leading media in the industry, fintech, crypto, business, etc. The whole concept was really to, again, create a cinematic experience under the Future is Now film. We went all over the world, spoke to a lot of interesting people, and the whole concept was really at the base of it, let the people tell their story, right? Because there's so much excitement from the hardships that a lot of these people that we call the thought leaders of this industry have went through, that there's absolutely a magnificent story there for everyone to take part in. And obviously, media tokenization, which is something that we also tried to uncover with the Future is Now film, was at the helm of it all, because essentially it became a cinematic NFT that gets sharded and gets co-produced with all the people within the cinematic film. And that's really how the Future is Now film came to be. It became a product that allows us to position and allows us to build authority and give that opportunity to the people in the space. And I think that's very important because, again, there's so much that sometimes you just don't get in a 30-minute vlog even, or a 30-minute interview, right? So when it's conceptualized into a story that really is aimed to drive attention and move people, you can actually get somewhere. And Larry King was really the first one that pointed me to that. He was advising a green mining company in 2018. I met him at the Futurist Conference in Toronto, Canada. And he said, Miguel, we really need to focus on something other than war and who, at the time, who Trump, slept with, exactly his quote. And he said, war is dumb. And again, that really inspired me. He died a few years later, so it was a very exciting interview that we did at episode 3 of the Future is Now film in Toronto, Canada. And of course, that idea came into my head. How do we, counter this problem reaction solution that's been prevalent in anything innovative, obviously, right? Because the industry gets attacked a lot of the times with these narratives that I feel we, at least in the media space of Web3, have to stand up against. And so we went to speak to Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico, who once said, if it was in my power, I'd take the whole Mexican government and put them on the blockchain and get rid of most of them because they are not savvy to lead the country. That was exactly what he said. And this went on international news, by the way, so that was quite a statement. And this was right at the precipice of me making my move to the UAE in 2021 when I realized, wow, this city has been on the blockchain in all of its government services since 2018. Right, tells you, going from the dark side to the light. Mark Buckley was another very interesting character that we had the pleasure of speaking to, the SDG and a World Economic Forum advocate, who really said that, he's really aiming at AI and blockchain within the WEF. And, his profound quote was that all of these civilization frameworks that we're operating under, they're built on a hierarchy model, right? And it's repetitive. It's a bubble that gets made, bursts, and we do it again. And what is the definition of that? That's really insanity, right? When you're in the business of creating bubbles and bursting them to just do it all over again, right? So building something sustainable with this technology was a very key theme that I think we all have to look for. William Siriano, the congressman from El Salvador, who really was a key political advocate for Bukele and the coming of that whole Bitcoin narrative within El Salvador, really mentioned the importance of that, showing how, 2 weeks ago we received a report from the IMF where they actually recommended the government of El Salvador not to use Bitcoin as a legal tender because they think there's too much risk. But I believe they have other reasons that they do not want to tell us. And obviously he went on into RIA and the money transfer and how much percent they were making by controlling the inflow of capital in and out of El Salvador. And obviously Bitcoin and the Chivo wallet and all that they did in El Salvador has really made that nation, I'd say, monetary sovereign. And that was really one of the first use cases that I think we all saw, right? El Salvador being a true, not Liberland, not all these other, cryptopias that were trying to be built out there, but it was actually El Salvador that really broke the ice. Obviously Tron, and Justin's son, also one of our co-producers and a friend of TwinDAO, at the time was the ambassador to the WTO on behalf of Grenada, making for that strife of CBDCs, essentially, right? Centralized digital currencies. And that got me thinking, so what are we doing? Are we actually helping the industry that we are supposed to counterweight by essentially participating in the building of these shackles of technocracy? Or are we really bringing that decentralized experience on a government level and driving for this digital centralized currency adoption? Very interesting theme that we will discover. Eric Salvan, co-founder of Firefly Aerospace, they're decentralizing space travel, and that was really exciting, right? When a company like that decided to speak on behalf of decentralizing space and through decentralized currencies. They successfully launched, a little bit after that in 2022, they went up to low Earth orbit and successfully launched their lunar rover. So this was a very interesting, again, story. Brian Talaby, I'm just gonna go through these guys really quick. Crystal Rose, some of the amazing speakers. Akon, again, a very interesting story of, hype, pinnacle of success, but then something happened, right? The whole city that he was trying to build in Africa didn't really come to be. But I think covering that is important. And of course, Guy Kawasaki, the first evangelist of the Macintosh computer, the guy who, kind of built it out with Steve Jobs, who at the time in Silicon Valley, by the way, where we met with this wonderful gentleman here deeply in his phone, Gordon Einstein, he said, right? He said, how can I trust crypto, Miguel? I make an iPhone, I get paid, I put that money in the bank. What do I do with this digital currency? Obviously, we haven't spoken to him since, but I think he might have changed his mind since then. And of course, John McAfee, the man who I think tackled the whole idea of centralization a little way too heavy, because let's be honest, it kind of cost him his life. Whether by his own doing or, as some conspiracy theories are out there, we don't know, but what a profound man he was, who said, if we can't leave a better world for our children and our children's children, then WTF are we doing? And that was really, again, very honest, and I think John and his story deserves that attention. Miko Mutsumura, who ended up saying it back in 2019 that, the decentralized powers of control are now measuring their success by the amount of exposure they have in this industry. And several years down the line, right, 7? Look how right he was. This is exactly what's happening now on a global level. You know, first we hate them, then we talk to them, then we start loving them. That's kind of what's happening to us right now in the Web3 space and this whole centralized, decentralized concept tug of war that we've been. Tim Draper, of course, who always said it's just two boys and girls and a dog in a garage making the next innovative breakthrough. And I think that's what we're, by the way, forgetting. We're forgetting that startup spirit. And this, of course, is covered very well in our film. And of course, women in blockchain, right? I think this industry has been one of the friendliest in terms of technology industries in the modern time to really elevate women founders and women positioning in the space as tech leaders, tech founders, and true operators. So we always stand by that, and obviously supporting the wonderful females in blockchain, who I see quite a few here in the audience, so thank you for coming. And a great example by Michael Turpin, our good friend, right? 24 years ago, Newsweek wrote a piece saying how the internet was a joke and that no one is going to use it to redefine a publication like Newsweek on a computer. Yet Newsweek print edition is out of business, and there's 4 billion people on the internet, right? And they said no one is going to know each other, but then Facebook came, and that fixed the problem, right? So, and then of course, same thing with the financials. Credit cards really boosted the concept of that distrust of digital money. So as we see, what I'm trying to say here is that our industry will succeed no matter what. Even though some people still doubt it these days, with the coming of robotics and AI, people are switching focus from Web3 to, unfortunately, other things, in my humble opinion. So let's cut through this. These are some of the speakers in our current film that we're co-producing right now with actually Dubai Tech Tuesdays and the World Token Summit. Brian Rose, we're going to speak to Nick Spanos, of course Da Vinci, he's also in it. Let's see, who else are you going to see right now? Reeve Collins, co-founder of Tether, and Brock Pierce, our good friend and the US presidential candidate in 2020. So without further ado, it's all about why are we here, right? It's how we choose why are we in this industry and what do we stand for. And I think that's a very important question for no one to forget and keep asking oneself every day. So without further ado, let's do an exclusive 3-minute premiere of the trailer of Why Are You Here? And thank you so much.